Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health on your Wednesday morning Rise and Shine. And this morning here, we're looking at some health news review as we look at three different articles and talk about some things that you need to do for your health and how to make your health better or to have better health. So this is what we're looking at here this morning as we do our live talk covering natural health. So welcome again to our live talk program, and hopefully you had a blessed night rest and you're ready to take on this day. We'll begin with a short prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, we thank you again for your love towards us and the wisdom that you give us in understanding and knowing what to do to be able to remain in good health. I pray that you may guide us along as we look at these current events that are going on and be able to make the best decisions for our lives. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So again, we're looking at some health news reviews. As you know, there's always constant changes and things that are new that are coming up or cropping up that always suggest some things that you need to do. Some of them are good and some of them are bad, and then some of them are just general trends that we need to particular focus on and be able to be educated about what's going on so we can advise and help others to make the right decision. And so I wanted to start off this morning by reading a Bible text that is particularly linked to some of the things that we're going to talk about this morning here. And it's found in Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. Genesis 3, verse 6. And I'll probably start back by reading from verse 4 through 6. And it says here, the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. And this is important when we consider health, because one of the things that changed at the fall of humanity was the fact of how we choose what we eat. And often we're eating things that will not kill us today, but ultimately will kill us long term. And we keep going. Verse 5 says, And God, for God doth know that in the day that ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eye, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And so that's the story of the beginning of trouble for humanity. That's the story of how we fell. We basically had a problem with choice of food. And notice here, if you remember the story, that it was told of Adam and Eve, that there is the tree of life. In it is all good. There's nothing bad. And then there's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In that, there is things good and there are things bad. And so when you understand this concept, you'll understand how to deal with certain food choices. That there's things that we have on earth that is good, the nutritional benefit, the health benefit, the healing in the food is good. It doesn't come with any bad. And if it's bad, it's because human beings probably have sprayed the apple or the mango or the kale with pesticide. But other than that, it is good. Then there's things that they have health benefits and they also have dangerous results with them. And so one has to be careful. And so what we're going to, the three articles I'm going to share, I'm going to have this theme running through it, where it is knowing that there's things out there that you can partake of that is good. And it will give you life, it will give you health. And there's things out there that you can partake of that is good and evil. It will give you some health benefits, and also it will give you some negative side effects. So one has to be aware of this, because many times it's difficult to communicate to individuals that certain things are best left alone because they come with some negative effects, and they'll say, but there's good in it. It has some health benefits. Why not we just partake it for the health? And that's life. They'll say life comes with good and evil. Well, yeah, surely life, but if you want to really be healthy, you want to as much as possible, as much as lying in your power, to always partake of things that are good. Now, as most naturally, if you eat out, you're on the road, there are times when you're going to eat something and not knowingly, because you don't do this knowingly, but not knowingly, you might partake of something that is tainted, and that's sometimes out of your control. But whenever lying in your power, you choose the best always. That's logical. That's not illogical to encourage a person to choose the best always. And so this is what I want to do here this morning as we encourage you here this morning to be healthier. And so we're going to start off here by looking at this article here. This article is a trending thing that's going on. It's called matcha. This is a kind of a tea-like product, and I'm going to read a little bit about matcha for you here, as it is something that's being sold across the nation in various different forms, and it has some health benefits and some negative effects. And so, again, you want to be able to look at that. We'll start off this way, and this is from NBCnews.com. And it's entitled, According to Science, Matcha is, or I should say the title is Much Ado About Matcha, Matcha. Is it really that healthy is the question. So this is what they're going to be exploring, and I'll explore this with you this morning. According to science, matcha is something of a miracle supplement, but more isn't always better. Though its origin traced back over thousands of years in Japan, the cafe menu item of this very moment is matcha. Matcha infused in innovations such as matcha muffin, matcha pancake, and matcha drinks are sweeping the nation. It seems like everywhere you go, it's matcha, matcha, matcha. It's become such a fashionable beverage that last summer, the New York Post, ran a story about how Victoria's Secret models were flocking to Chacha Matcha, a hipster spot fluent in the preparation of various matcha-based miracle potions. A search for where to get matcha in New York, on Yelp yields some 1,400 plus results. Even mass market coffee purveyor like Starbucks have made matcha their mantra, with a vast range of offerings to cash in on the craze. So probably you have seen this product selling somewhere. So we continue reading. What is it about the magical and mystical properties of this ground green tea that makes it one of the most desirable ingredient among the fashion and wellness warrior set? Is it legit health boost that should be integrated into your daily regimen, or a health fad doomed to fail by way of coconut oil? And I'm sure you've heard the coconut oil thing, where they're talking about coconut oil is not good for you. We're not going to deal with that per se today, but we keep going here. Evidence pointing to boost exists in abundance. But first, let's clarify what matcha is to begin with. In case you are trapped under something heavy these past few years, it's basically green tea derived from the leaves of Camellia sinensis plant, finely ground. Oxford Living Dictionary cites its origin in Japan as a combo of two terms, from matsu, to rub, and cha, tea, from Chinese Mandarin dialect cha, ct. Matcha master house of matcha say the beverage is steeped in history. Samurai warriors drank matcha green tea before going into battle because of its energizing properties, and Zen Buddhist monk drank it as a way to flow through meditation while remaining alert, ready. So read the websites originally. Matcha is not just exotic in sound, but in formulation, ranging from lower cooking grade powder to more expensive ceremonial grade powder, with enough selection to agonize over when choosing one to top your chia pudding. To get the best quality matcha according to the matcha set, it's matter. Make sure your matcha is bright green. The greener the better. The darker the matcha, the older the matcha, and its beneficial properties weaken over time. According to science, matcha is something of a miracle supplement. For one, it makes you feel good. Notice when we read Genesis chapter 3, verse 6, when they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they ate the fruit, their eyes were open. They had a different experience. Now, whatever that experience is, if you ever listen to a person who use drugs, they'll communicate a similar experience. The experience is similar. They have a newfound experience, but long term, the destructive effects of the bad in the product is terrible. So keep that in mind, and it's just fascinating when you read this and you read the account of what happened to Adam and Eve. So according to science, matcha is something of a miracle supplement. For one, it makes you feel good. One recent study examined the effects of the phytochemical in green tea on mood and cognition. The combo of caffeine present in most green tea and L-theanine, an amino acid found in some teas, were found to improve performance in attention, switching task, and alertness, but to a lesser extent than caffeine alone, uh, partly because how L-theanine chills you out. On the same note, another study performed on mice found that drinking green tea does, in fact, reduce stress and curb bouncy jitter one might get from drinking caffeinated beverage. Mind you, green tea is caffeinated and matcha is an even more caffeinated form of green tea containing approximately 34 mgs of caffeine, where traditional green tea traditional green tea averages at about 30 mgs, and an espresso has around 60 mgs, but the L-theanine in matcha prolongs its mood boosting effect. So we pause there from the article again. So notice here you have a product that is slightly more, it's green tea, and it's slightly more caffeine. So it's a caffeinated beverage that has slightly more caffeine than green tea, and this is the new fad now for caffeine lovers. Another big draw, health benefit wise, is that matcha, like green tea, is loaded with antioxidant. A study published in 2014 found the plant also had antimicrobial properties, particularly the four types of catechins, antioxidant property flavonoids it contains, against a few different types of microorganisms. Yet another study published in Nature proved that catechins inhibits the growth of bacteria, the bacteria that cause cavities and periodontal disease. Those magical catechins also have tons of potential in helping people in heart issues. Catechins present in green tea as the ability to prevent arteriosclerosis, hypertension, endometrial dysfunction, ischemic heart disease, cardiomyopathy, cardiac hypertrophy, and congestive heart failure by decrease on oxidative stress, preventing inflammatory events, reducing platelet aggregation, and halting the proliferation of vascular smooth muscle cells, explained the author of the study published in the Chinese Journal of Natural Medicine. So I want you to keep all that in mind, because remember, each of these products, or these antioxidants that are in something like green tea, are found also in other ingredients, in other products, in other natural products. So you want to be able to partake. This is where my advice would be. You want to be able to partake of the products that has these antioxidants in them without the deleterious effect of caffeine and all the negative that comes with caffeine. So important to consider as we're looking at this idea here in our health news roundup, and this idea here of avoid partaking of things that has the good and the bad, because what they'll do, they'll always tout the good, as I'm doing here in this article, reading this article here with you, but they'll spend little time, and it's not worth it. You can get the same result from your pomegranates. You can get the same results from other different herbal remedies, from other different fruits and vegetables, your grapes and so forth. You take the good only, not the bad. Keep reading the article here. There was also much hype that the winning caffeine and catechin combo stimulate the nervous system, which is said to rev your metabolism by stoking the thermogenic burn and store energy process of fat oxidation, though only ever so slightly. A piece on NPR revealed the increase in a piece on NPR revealed the increase is practically negligible and can't be sustained over time. So notice that you could do it, and probably short term, probably for a few days a week, you could get all of these things that they're saying. But notice they're saying they've done research, and the research says the increase is negligible. The increase is just is zero out itself and can't be sustained over time. So what do I believe is going on there? I believe because you have something that has some poison in it and has some benefits in it, that you will take it like almost all things that are dangerous in nature. You will take it and either you'll immediately have a negative reaction, or you'll take it and you will have seem to be a positive reaction, probably for a few days, a few weeks. And then long term, the poison accumulates in your body, and it outdo the good, and it ultimately becomes negligible, right? Negligible. So again, so somebody say, well, I'm using this because it's gonna do, you always notice there's a lot of people who smoke cigarette because they're stressed out. But when you look at them, they look like a nervous wreck. That's where the problem comes in. You have a person, oh, I'm smoking cigarette. Why are you smoking a cigarette? Because I'm nervous. I need to calm myself down. I need to chill out. Well, you look like you're stressed out. You're like somebody is chasing you. You're being chased by a pack of, bears or something like that. So you want to note that with all these things, that's where the problem comes in, the negligible effect over the long term. But that's the problem with almost all drugs. When you take them, you will get some benefits, but long term, the effect wears off, and now the poison really kicks in and really kick you in the pant. Now, even with negligible evidence that matcha can boost a weight loss regimen, the substance remains heavily endorsed. So notice that, heavily endorsed, even though it's negligible effect. Philadelphia-based nutritionist Marjorie Cohn regularly enjoyed matcha, adding it to her smoothie and chia seed pudding, even mixing it into her recipe for organic vanilla ice cream. She often recommends it to clients looking to cut out coffee, or to hardcore caffeine addicts prone to reaching for a second or third cup of coffee. So it's a substitute, as you see here. So somebody who's a hardcore caffeine addict, she's suggested to them. Now, if you were following the article so far, you would say, well, how does that make sense? If a person is a hardcore caffeine addict, why would you suggest matcha to them? Because matcha has more caffeine in it. We keep reading. The research is still in the discovery phase on matcha, but seem as though our ancient ancestor got it right with this one. Though matcha is a nutritional powerhouse, Jenny Zeitlin, a registered dietitian in White Plains, New York, and New York City, said it's not for everyone, and that pregnant and nursing women should skip it altogether. Consuming too much of this potent antioxidant has been linked to decreased iron absorption, lead contamination, liver damage if taken with acetaminophen, and to alter effectiveness of prescription medication. In fact, these adverse effects may be 3 times as likely to occur when drinking matcha as opposed to brewed green tea. So, green tea, which is not our burden today, but green tea has its negative effect. As you know, many people are promoting green tea as an antioxidant. I've seen people supposed to know better promoting this elixir. But the problem is that green tea has negative effect. But here they're saying that the dangers of matcha is 3 times more than green tea. And so, again, just your straight green tea in comparison to however they brew and prepare this elixir, you get more negative effect. So notice again, when we talk about the phenomenal concept in the Bible and teaching in the Bible, that there are things in nature, and it starts out by telling you that there was one tree in nature that has a good and a bad effect, and that it will alter your perception. Again, I'll read it at the end about Genesis 3:6, how Adam and Eve, when they ate this fruit, it seemed to affect their thought pattern were affected, but after they ate it, it affected their perception, that their eyes became open. They had a magical benefit, but it was killing them at the same time. I just think that's fascinating. as you read this. So I'm going to give you this part again because I don't want you to miss it, because in these type of articles, they just tout the good and they don't talk about all the negative effect. So it decrease iron absorption. So this is why they would say a mother or a pregnant or a nursing woman should not take it. And I would say for any kind of caffeine beverage. And what's good for them is good for me also, because I'm a delicate human being. So it increased lead contamination, and if taken with acetaminophen, it can cause liver damage, and if it even alters the effectiveness of prescription medication, because somehow it seems like it's altering the way your body interacts with other nutrients, and it will cause liver damage. That means is altering the way, because your liver is basically your chemical plant, your chemical industry. It is creating and readjusting and affecting and changing and transforming the chemicals in your body, and so somehow it's disturbing the function of your liver. So you want to be able to stay away from this thing. In fact, these adverse effects may be 3 times as likely to occur when matcha is used in comparison to green tea. 3 times as likely. So again, if you already have problems with chemical, which we all have problems with our chemical. When I say chemical, or natural chemicals, processing chemicals via our liver, don't drink this. This is a poison. I notice all of what we just read is all the good stuff. 2 more paragraphs here on this article. It seemed matcha has more going for it than coconut oil, which is it's just craziness. These people talking. It is not a magical elixir to OD on. It is easy to get lost in the hype, says Zeitlin. The tendency is to imagine that more is better, and that's just not the case. 1/2 teaspoon serving of matcha, no more than once a day, is certainly a valuable addition to any diet, says Zeitlin. Like with any other substance currently having a moment, turmeric, you can get your dose by eating or drinking it. Though Zeitlin says drinking it as a tea, or it was initially intended to provide all the benefits without the added calories. So, in the article there. So first example here, first thing that we're going to put out here with this idea here of be careful how you follow hype and thinking, hey, this is great because it has health benefits, and ignore the other part, the warning on it that, hey, look, all these health benefits you're getting long term, and long term could be weeks, could be days, will be removed by the negativity that comes with the product. And notice the negativity came at the end of the article, not the beginning. So if you didn't read this article to the end, you would not get what was going on, and you would run out there and say, oh, matcha is good for me. Bam, you're going to buy it, and this matcha is going to be a poison to your liver, and it's going to affect the way your body absorbs nutrients, but yet you're taking it to be able to be boosted and be energized. It's a trick. Remember, with all drugs, I'll say this and I've said this before, what drugs does to the body is alter your perception while poisoning you. It just I don't know, probably that's one of the best way I've found in my head to describe drugs as I've observed it over the years. What the drugs is doing, it's altering your perception. Your perception of their benefit is mental. It's not physical. That's why you can see a person smoking or drinking coffee and they look burnt out and whipped. They look like, their skin is just like cracking, like they've been they've become the desert. But the reality of it is, although they look like that, if you ask them, this thing is a wonder product. And you go to anybody taking crack, cocaine, marijuana, heroin, and it's wrecking their body. But mentally, they have been deceived by the drugs or the alcohol. And their thoughts are that this thing here is a super product. So keep that in mind. And that's the same thing when you read Genesis 3:6. That with Adam and Eve, they thought, whoa, this thing is great. Their eyes were open and all that. But all was doing it was mentally changing them, but physically they took a poison in and they start dying immediately and they didn't know. And that's all poisons are. Sad but true. It's just simply basically is a one-way stream. So just remember that and remember this very well. Be careful of that type of stuff. Don't take things in that change your alter your perception. Drugs, alcohol, all these things that alter your perception. So mentally you think they're great, but physically they're destroying your body, and you're deceived. That's why the Bible said, "Wine is a mocker, and strong drink is raging." And whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise, because it fools you into thinking you're having a high time. But all you're doing is just making a mockery and a fool of yourself and destroying your liver primarily. Notice here, alcohol destroy the liver. These caffeinated products destroy the liver because they alter the way the liver process chemical. Again, this is one of these things. So don't partake of this. This is my take on that. Now, next article I want to share with you here is now flipping over here to water, and we're going over on the other side of the country to California. Now here, this entitled again, this is NBC News again. This article is what's going on now. It's cancer causing chemical TCP plague California drinking water. And this is written by Ronan Farrow and Rich McHugh. And this is from Irvine, California. In the Central Valley of California, hundreds of wells that provide water to millions of people are tainted with a chemical that some experts say is one of the most powerful cancer-causing agents in the world. That's a powerful statement for them to say something like that. One of the most powerful cancer-causing agent in the world. The state is poised to take the first step Tuesday to regulate the substance called 1,2,3-TCP, but test data compiled by an activist group show it's also being detected by utilities across the country. So in other words, it's possible that it's in your drinking water. Some who live in the lush farmland believe it's to be blamed for the health problems of their family members and neighbors. The word that really captures all of it is outrage, says Jerry Tinoco, 45, who is from the city of Irvine, and says at least 3 close family members have been diagnosed with cancer. It's a man-made chemicals, so someone is to be blamed. There's no research showing the chemical has caused cancer spike in any specific community, but some residents and experts told NBC News that research is simply has yet to be done on towns like Irvine. How dangerous is TCP? The Environmental Protection Agency has concluded it's likely to be carcinogenic to humans, and the California Water Board warns residents not to shower with tainted water because they might inhale the chemicals. So let's pause here a little bit from the article again. So here we have this chemical agent, and later on you'll find that it's used for like pesticide and stuff like that, and it's used in the production of plastic. So this chemical agent, which can kill insects and stuff, is gotten into the water system, and it is seemed to be a lightly carcinogenic. Some people believe it's a dangerous carcinogenic. It's not just something mild, and it's in the water. And so over the time and years, I've been encouraging you to make sure that you filter through your drinking water minimum. Here they're talking about that you shouldn't even bathe with the water. So to me, if somebody that's an independent, 1 or 2 or 3 independent agencies come out and say, hey, look, this thing here is dangerous, you shouldn't even bathe in the water, I'm gonna be like, you know what happened? I need to be drinking filtered water. And because things have changed, we're not 100 years ago where we were, pre the chemical revolution. We're at a place now where the chemical revolution has been decades past and gone, and chemicals is just a normal part of our lives. But these chemicals, again, for the most part, they can have their beneficial effect, but for the most part, they're just poisons. And if you understand what a pesticide is similar to like a suicide, but it's just a side to kill pest. And in large dosage, And in some of these chemicals, in small dosage or small doses long term, it will kill you. So you gotta be careful of that. So somebody say, "Well, it's just water I drink." Never drink tap water. I don't care what they tell you. That's just my all of this situation keep coming up, no matter where you are in the world or in the country, especially in these modern areas, civilized nations. They will encourage you to drink your water. Drink tap water because the water has been tested. Don't drink tap water. You drink the filter water because again, if they're telling you don't bathe in the thing, then what does that tell you then about drinking it? Because they're saying you're gonna inhale the chemicals because you don't know when you're bathing. The water is hot, so a lot of that thing is getting oxidized, and then you inhale it. If you can inhale the thing, and it is dangerous from you, I don't need the chemical companies to pay any lobbies to say that it's good. I've heard enough. I'm just gonna say to you, Mike, can't filter the water you bathe with. If you can afford it, go ahead and filter. At least put your bathing water through some charcoal filter or something. But if you can afford that, I'll always say to you, at least the water that you drink, make sure it's filtered. And then take that even one step further. If you can afford it even more, at least the water that you cook with and drink, make sure that it's filtered. Because people say, "Oh, I cook the water." Think about it. If you cook the water, you're concentrate. You might be killing off the bacteria and the cysts and the viruses. So you have a lot of dead bacteria in your water. But you're concentrating the chemicals. The cooking doesn't release the chemicals. It just concentrated. It evaporates some of the water. And you have a more concentrated pot of water in front of you. And you drink that, great. You might have a stomach virus, but you might be killing your kidney. So, and your liver. So keep that in mind because your filter, your chemical processing plant will be damaged by it. So if they say don't bathe in it, I would say don't drink it. Definitely. At least that for yourself and your family. Keep going here. So we're back again to inhaling the chemical. So Paul Trakniak, a professor for the Institute of Environmental Health at Oregon Health and Science University, who studied TCP for the Defense Department. Remember the Defense Department. A lot of these things were created as chemical warfare. And he said few other chemicals match its toxicity. Even the slightest amount of TCP in the water would be considered to be potentially considered to be a potential health effect. You should say hazard. So pause there again from this professor again, Tratniak. So he was studying this chemical for the Defense Department. And you know how beautiful, not beautiful or crazy that is, because all you need to do is take a chemical like this and basically get some of it into the water supply of an enemy. And you could just wipe out the whole city. So this is why it's a small amount. But in our brilliance, we seem to, instead of using the chemicals on the enemy, we use the chemicals on ourselves. And instead of killing the enemy in high dosage, we kill ourselves in low dosage. Another example of these chemicals, remember that it was this thing called aspartame, that thing that they call it NutraSweet. It was originally something that was part of the chemical warfare industry, but they realized that it was sweet. And now what we do, we put it into people's food and tell them that this is a diet soda, and we give them to drink. And then people having neurological problems, like their retina from the eye will detach because of partaking of aspartame. So you got to be careful of these chemicals because, again, they might have health benefits or benefits in the sense of, like, aspartame is sweet without calories. Great. But now you're having something that's sweet without calories that's causing you neurological problems because it's a neurological agent, and it was helped approved by Dick Cheney. So you think about that type of thing and you understand that yes, it might have, like the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it might have some good, but it's going to have some evil with it. It will kill you long term. Because remember, when Adam and Eve eat it, they didn't die immediately, but their system, their whole body changed because they ingested that poison, the evil part. So we keep going. So continue reading. The NBC News was in Arvin as the city tested the water for TCP. A state certified lab found more than 6 times the amount the state says it is acceptable. Arvin is poor, but they deserve to live. Local resident Maggie Medina said they deserve clean water. They didn't create this problem. TCP is a degreasing agent used in the production of plastic products. Lawyer Todd Robbins said the chemicals present in water supply across California's Central Valley is largely attributable to two industrial giants that recycle TCP by packaging it with agricultural pesticide. So it's used in the production of plastic chemicals, then they recycle it, and then they package it with agricultural pesticides. So remember, California is one of the main places that we get our foods from, our almonds, cashews, broccoli, all the various different type of vegetables, some oranges, persimmons, all this stuff. Pests everywhere, you gotta get rid of the pests. So this is where the TCP, the two sources of the TCP. Notice here, plastic products in the is a degreasing agent. Great. Here's the problem. One of the things I always say, I probably be only unless somebody just hand me a bottle of water, most of the time I put it in my mouth and put it away. Because if you taste cheap plastic water bottle, water in cheap plastic bottles, you will notice that it has a chemical taste to it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, next time get yourself very expensive water, plastic, water, what I'm talking about, water bottled water, you buy from the store, and then get yourself a cheap one. You taste a cheap one and you'll taste a chemical, plastic type of chemical that smell like plastic. And then the more expensive one, you taste less. This is why it's best if you're going to drink your water. You get a filter at home, you put the water in there, and you drink it from glass or from stainless steel or something more natural that's not going to leach the chemicals in it. That's the best advice. If you're in a pinch and you just can't do anything, buy the harder plastics, the water bottles with the hard plastics. That won't give you that leach plastic taste, because all of that is chemical, because these are chemicals that still reside on the plastic when they process it, or the plastic is so cheap it's breaking down. Those cheap plastic bottles that when you eat, after you drink the water, you can just crumble it. Yeah, those normally will feed your body with plastic, which will ultimately give you all of a sudden I forget the chemical, but that chemical that can cause breast cancer. We keep moving on. So TCP, continue the article here. TCP got into drinking water in the Central Valley because Dow Chemical Company and Shell Oil Company saw an opportunity decades ago to take an hazardous waste stream at their chemical plants, put it in barrels, and sell it to farmers, who would then inject it into the ground. Most such as spray it as a pesticide. That's how it started. Robbins represents 30 communities that are suing Dow and Shell to get them to pay for the multi-million-dollar filtration process required to clean water supply. The chemical prevailed in a 2010 lawsuit filed by the city of Redland, California, but they have settled other suits and recently lost their first at a Central Valley city 2 hours north of Arvin. A jury awarded Clovis, California $22 million to treat contaminated water and remove TCP from its wells. So just think about that whole farming area. So if you're listening to me and you're in a farming area in the United States, think about it that they might say your water is certified and it's great. But remember, most farming areas were using these Dow chemicals and Shell chemicals. So this is why they're thinking it's across the country. So that's what I always say. If anything, if you're out on the road, you get yourself the best quality you can get. Bottled water. If you're at home, at least if you can filter the water you bathe in, at least filter the water you drink. And secondarily, the water you cook with, because cooking only concentrate chemicals. Keep going. Amongst the documents Robin has collected in an internal memo in which Dow scientists call TCP garbage, acknowledged that it had little utility in killing pests. Another, you see how them crazy? They knew it didn't even wasn't even effective in killing pests, but they sell it to the farmers. Another memo sell from Shell raised concern about the chemical toxicity to animals. By at least 1970, the company knew that it posed direct risk to groundwater. Were advised by their own internal engineers and scientists to do something about it, and they failed to do so, he said. Dow and Shell declined requests for interview, and Dow declined to comment. In a statement, Shell said that the product is in question has been out of use for years, that it contains only trace amounts of TCP, and that it was approved by the federal and California government. The company added that the product was beneficial and that TCP was also present in other products made by other companies. The companies also point out that there have been no studies that prove TCP cause cancer in humans. But Jenny Rampel of the Community Water Center, an advocacy group, said that animal studies are frequently used to set public health standards. In fact, that's what California relied on when it settled the level at which water providers must inform residents of contamination. Now the state is going beyond that, with the water board scheduled to vote on whether to would require cleanup efforts once TCP reaches a certain threshold. The precedent set by California on Tuesday could be important nationwide. The Environmental Working Group, an advocacy organization, collected data from water utilities nationwide and concluded that TCP has been detected in at least 17 states, serving millions of people. The Environmental Working Group currently lists 13 on its website, but will be updated in the list to include 4 more states. So if you go on the Environmental Working Group website, you could just type in TCP and you see what if your state is involved in this. But most actually, if Dow Chemicals was selling these things to farmers, then the big farming states, I would assume, have them. So my advice here, and notice here we keep it on our trend about eating or partaking of things. When you partake of things, whether it be you're thinking of something that's going to give you antioxidants, going to boost your energy, give you a good feeling. Remember, partake of the things, not like things like matcha. Partake of things that's going to be only good, no bad. You stay away from the bad stuff, and take the good stuff. You can get the same nutrients without the stuff. There is coffee. No, sorry, chocolate, and then there is carob. Carob have the good without the bad. Use the carob, you avoid the chocolate. You'll be blessed. It's simple. And this is the same thing when it comes on to water. Water is great. We need water. Our bodies are 55 to 70% water. The leaner you are, if a person is very lean, they have about 70% water. If a person has a lot of fat on them, like an obese person will have about 55% water. But we have a lot of water in our system, and why it's important to be able to filter your water, because again, your body is just need of it. So you always use the water that is filtered, only because the biggest reason for it is because the groundwater is contaminated and you can't see chemicals. But because you can't see the thing, it doesn't mean that it's not there. And so that's important. So consider that well, and consider well that, as I say with Genesis 3:6, that there are things that you can partake of that will have good benefits, but there's also will come with negative. You avoid those negatives, because all the negatives are things that affect the mind and will make you feel like you're getting something very good. Last article here that I'll share, and this here is something kind of off the beaten path, but is interesting in a strange way. So here we go. So this is from motherjones.com, and it's entitled "The Government Warns Against Eating Your Placenta." So the government warns against eating your placenta. So this again falls into the idea of, is it good for you to eat or not? Mothers of newborns should not take pills containing their placenta. the Center for Disease Control and Prevention warned. The advisory came after doctors linked a newborn's case of dangerous infection called a Group B streptococcus to her mother's consumption of the baby's placenta, dehydrated and encapsulated. The trend of new mothers dosing themselves with placenta pills has taken off in the last few years, with the encapsulation companies claiming that consumption of placenta can boost mothers' energy, help them produce more milk, and ward off postpartum depression. Here's how it's worked. After the baby is born, the hospital preserves the placenta, the organ that connects a fetus to the uterine wall, and provides nutrition during gestation to the family for the family to take home. With some services, the family then sends the placenta to a facility for dehydration and encapsulation. Other companies send a technician to the home with a food dehydrator and an encapsulation supply. Over the next few weeks, the mother consumed the capsules. The pills spike in popularity in 2015 when Kim Kardashian, then pregnant with her son Saint, wrote that she planned to take them. I heard so many stories when I was pregnant with North of moms who never ate their placenta with their first baby and then had postpartum depression. But then when they took the pill with their second baby, they did not suffer from depression, she wrote. So I thought, why not try it? What do I have to lose? End of quote. But scientists say there's no evidence to support claims of any health or psychological benefits of consuming the placenta. Furthermore, as this 2016 review in the Journal of Obstetric Gynecology and Neonatal Nursing noted, placenta pills are not regulated, so there's no way to know what actually inside them and what goes on during the manufacturing process. That leaves women who consume the pills vulnerable to infection, environmental toxin, and exposure to potential dangerous levels of hormone. In the case that spurred the CDC warning, a newborn who having trouble breathing was rushed to an emergency room and eventually diagnosed with GBS, bacteremia. Before giving birth, the infant's mother had undergone a routine test for GBS. It was negative. After samples from the diseased infant's blood matched ones from the placenta and capsules that the baby's mother, had consumed, scientists conclude that most likely source of the infection was contact with the mother, who had almost certainly contracted the bacteria from the pills, but showed no symptoms of illness herself. Luckily, the infant survived from after an hospital stay and an intensive course of antibiotics. So there you have it again. So here's another example of something that is a trend. I don't know how huge or great or large of a trend this is, but it's something that quite a few years back I remember watching a video where after having a baby, this family invited over some of their friends and they cook the mother's placenta and they had it for a meal, the family and the friends. It is strange. I don't understand. Why would I go over to my friend's house and eat his wife's placenta? Very strange happenings going on here. But that was a few years ago. We're talking about probably 5-6 years ago. And so I guess the trend has gotten even larger. It's always fascinating when you see something in its embryonic stage and not consider and look at it and thinking, that's not going to catch on. It's not going to catch on. It ain't going to become a trend. And then all of a sudden, somebody point and say, hey, well, look, animals will eat their placenta after the birth of an animal, and so why shouldn't women eat their placenta? And this is one of those things. Well, notice here the article had stated that one of the problems are the scientists have stated that one of the problems with that is the gynecologists is that there are concentrated hormones that are in the placenta for a specific reason, and these specific reasons are great for the baby, but they're not there for the mother themselves. It's just the body produce it for a specific reason. So that's one of my first problem with this. Why I would believe it's not good to eat your placenta or your neighbors or your friends or neighbors' placenta, because the hormones are there for a specific reason, for a specific time. And for me, my understanding of how the body works is that when that time has come to an end, then it is no longer needed. It is something that now has concentrated hormones for a specific use. What I think is the problem is going on in general, whether it be before pregnancy, while pregnant, or after pregnancy, is that there's a social construct and there's also a physical construct, and there's deficiency in both of the environments. Socially, the mother is having some support she need, but even in a larger way, the food that the mother is in need of is not there. Most of the time, people are deficient in nutrients, and so when people are deficient in nutrients, they have cravings, and the body will crave something that it will tell you to go eat. And I remember reading a story where this lady was saying that either somebody should know herself. I can't remember what the book was saying, but she was saying that she had so much craving that she would tell her husband to go to the truck stop, specifically to the truck stop, and go find the trucks with dirt on the flap and scrape off the dirt on the flap and bring it to her so she could eat it. So her body knew that there was something. It wasn't a best source, but there was something in that dirt on the flap, probably some dead animals and stuff like that, that will give her nutrients. What the body's doing is just craving anything. And so like people will eat dirt, they will chalk, they will eat anything because the body's like gonna die because it needs the nutrients. So it's possible a female will see that placenta and something in the brain says eat it, because you're dying for nutrients. And so some of these chemicals that are needed should be coming from foods that will give you the building block to produce the serotonin, to produce the feel good chemicals, because the body is so devoid of nutrients because the baby just suck everything out of the mother that the mother feels that they're gonna die. So that's one thing. The other thing about the animals eating, because some people say the reason to believe in, whether it be any type of thing, homosexuality or anything like that, they will say, well, the reason that we should follow it is because the animals do it. Remember, the animals, they do things for survival. And one of the things that the animals do for survival is that when the baby is born or the kid is born, what they'll do, when the young is born, they'll eat the placenta because they want to clean up the environment, and so that they protect themselves from predators. And so it is not a function, in my understanding at least, not a function of the animals doing this because they want to get nutrients. It's a function that the area that the baby was born, they want to clean that area up, get rid of the placenta, so they'll just go ahead and eat it. It's just a gross, so to speak, function of nature, but it is a logical function of nature because you want to get rid of that. So that is something that is what you call like an afterbirth, a waste. You get rid of the waste and you move it away, and that's the end of that. But that is there for a specific function. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why they would use, like for women, for hormones for women, is that when they would use the pregnant mare, the horse, female horse, the urine for the pregnant mare, because the mare is pregnant, she produces more hormones. Well, so it is with female. When female are pregnant, they produce more hormones. The hormones are just there specifically to protect the baby, because the body immune system would even kill the little fetus. It's there for a specific reason. When that time has passed, those hormones will shut down in production or go decrease, so that the body can do what it needs to do to heal itself. So what I think is needed for female who are having this craving for these chemicals is simply what they need. They need some nutrients. They need some good red raspberry leaf tea, tea and herb. They need some barley grass, some wheatgrass, some various different herbs that are good for the female reproductive organs, like damiana. They need some sarsaparilla, sapilmetto, all these different herbs to feed the reproductive organs and actually to feed the mind also, so that they don't go into these deep depression. This is what is needed, but instead, what the society is saying, or what they're saying is, as I eat it. And so, how are you going to eat it? Because some people say, well, the problem is the encapsulating process is probably somewhere they get infected with bacteria. Probably the dehydrator is not dehydrated high enough. Some people believe it's just best to cut up the placenta and cook it, and that way you bring it up above 170 degrees and you avoid any bacteria in it. Well, if you do it like that, the problem is the person get a hit one time and they get a concentrated amount of hormones, which can be dangerous. So I guess they share it with their friends. Well, the best thing to do is just to feed the body. You're taking in things that are supposed to be something that's supposed to be a waste product. You feed the body and the body produces its own hormones, because the body did produce the hormones in the placenta. So you can do it again if you just simply feed the body. So some people believe it's the encapsulating of the placenta is creating the problem. And so some people believe it's best to eat it straight, even raw. That would take stomach, just to eat that stuff raw. Or some people just believe in cooking it and put some seasoning on it. Again, there's people who eat meat all the time. So some question is, well, why not just go eat a slab of meat if that's what you need? A lot of these chemical in meat are loaded with hormones. So I believe that the solution for the problem is through the digestive tract, but not with the type of meat that's coming from a female eating her own flesh and then even share it with others. I believe the way to do it is simply just to feed the body the nutrients, eat a healthy diet before pregnancy, while pregnant, and after pregnancy, and then take the herbs that I mentioned earlier to feed the female reproductive organs, and the herbs for the mind, the herbs that going to make the mind feel better. St. John's wort, various different herbs that's going to build the brain up, and then you'll be able to not go through that postpartum. And then the other part is to give the social support for the female before, during, and after pregnancy. When the women go through pregnancy, it's not a good experience; it's a terrible experience because of the social problems that goes along. Anyhow, so that's basically what it is. So I'll just read for you again, just because we're just about out of time. I'm gonna read for you again this passage of scripture, Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, right? So this is like, whether it be the water or the matcha or the placenta. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes and a tree to be desired to make one wise, notice, to affect the brain, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. So this happens in so many situations. As I say, I saw a video where a family, after their pregnancy, they went home and they cut out the placenta, and she not only gave it to her husband, but she gave it to her friend and her friend's husband, and they all four sit and eat. And most actually, they would affect their thinking, because all the hormone that they're eating from that mother would get into the system, and you probably have such a mental euphoria that you feel so good and so high, but you're eating somebody placenta. Why would you do that? So anyhow, so that's what's going on. So this is the reality. So whatever it is, whether it be drugs, alcohol, caffeine, coffee, whatever that will psychologically affect your mind, or even chemicals psychologically affect your mind to make you think that it's positive but killing you, I encourage you here to avoid it. Just take into your body things that just only gonna bless you, and that's good. Don't take the good and the evil. Don't take poisons, because he has short-term effect. Just go for the long-term effect, and God will bless you. So I'm going to pray to close. And so just remember, tomorrow we do current events. So join me here tomorrow again. But let's pray to close. We thank you, Lord, for your love towards us and the blessings of knowing thee, the only true God. I pray that you may be with us, dear Lord, as we often have to make difficult decisions. And the difficult decision here, Lord, is that we make the decision to do what is good for us and to stay away from things that are good and bad. May you bless us, dear Lord, that we might look out for our best interests and be willing to do this and not go for the evil while thinking we're taking it good. Be with us as we go through the rest of this day, and may thy grace continue to go with us. We pray for Christ's sake. Amen. Thanks for being with me on Revive Reform Radio as we're about to go back to our the choir time. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.